I would like one or both of the gold chest feats for Talon, please. Thank you. I can't believe I just called that shot. Woo!
Welcome to Idle Insights. My name is Dylan, and I'm coming to you live from the safe and isolated confines of my home in beautiful Victoria, BC, Canada. I have a very special guest joining me today, but first, a shout out to Alpha Crawl, who clipped that Mars moment just before we started. I'd also like to shout out and thank our moderator and co-producer Sasha, as well as our executive producer Erica, and of course huge thanks to Dungeons & Dragons for hosting us on the official D&D Twitch. It is and will always be an honor to be here. So my guest today is Trevor Bettis. You may know Trevor from two of our other shows on the CNEGames Twitch, Champions of Lore with B. Walters and Aaron M. Evans, where we explore the intersection of D&D lore and idle champions, or Champions of Psychology with Mitra Jordan and Dr. B, a show talking about mental health and wellness in the gaming community. But that's just our channel. If you're into podcasts, and trust me, Trevor is into podcasts, you may be familiar with Trevor's work on Difficulty Class with co-host Ali Deutschman, or where the two talk about all things D&D, or there's the From the Same Mister, where Trevor and Christy, is it Christy or Kirsty?
Kirsty.
Talk about their long-lost 11 plus 12, however many siblings, thanks to having a sperm donor in common. And then, of course, there's The Other Side of Suspicion, a supernatural comedy podcast that I'm dying to hear more about because I've never seen a haunted boat, but one of my closest friends growing up absolutely lived in a haunted house. Please, everybody, welcome Trevor Bettis to the stream.
Hello! I'm here. Did you say we're on the D&D Twitch stream?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Hi.
So, as with all things D&D and D&D Twitch, now you have to tell us your D&D story. I just realized my camera's pointed up a little bit. I'm just gonna.
Oh, you mean like how I got into D&D?
Yeah, all of it. When you first played, who your first character was, how did you get from not knowing anything about Dungeons and Dragons to here on the D&D Twitch?
Wow. So, fun fact, I used to be one of those guys that would say, well, I play World of Warcraft, but at least I don't play D&D. Now that's swapped. But yeah, it was, I was, oh my god, how old was I? Like 22 or something like that. Yeah, because this is my 10 years since I started playing, and my friends and I were hanging out, and one of them was huge into D&D. I mean, playing since he was a little kid. His dad would even run games for them while they were on the road during a road trip, where his dad would just be looking straight ahead and he'd just be DMing and saying things and making him roll in the little like compartment thing between the seats.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's intense.
And yeah, and so one day he was like, hey, I haven't gotten to play D&D in a long time. I would love it if you all would play. And my friend Kyle and I are like, I don't know. That seems a little too nerdy for me. You know, meanwhile, we're rushing to get home to watch Doctor Who. We had a weird concept of nerd. And my wife was kind of like on the fence about it. And then he goes, you play pirate? And she went, we're playing D&D. And I went, but sweetie. And she goes, no, we're playing D&D. So we rolled characters, and I made a sorcerer. This was in D&D 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
I made a sorcerer. His name was Jace Logan, and he was just kind of this like know-it-all jackass that was really good at magic and came from a rich family, but was like, at the same time, the one that's like always did the heroic thing, like no matter what it came down to the moment, he's like, all right, I'm rushing in and I'm gonna do the thing. Now I've just made him the king of Neverwinter in my game because my canon, my rules. Yeah, we played that for a bit, got into 4th edition. That's where like the addiction like really set in. And we played that all the way up into 5th edition and on to what I keep doing today. And now I do this.
And what is this? What do you do now?
Oh God, a podcaster. It's still weird to say that, but that's what I am, I guess.
Which one was your first?
Difficulty class. Well, okay. Originally it was called Dungeon Driver because I recorded it in my car on the way to and from my office job. The inspiration for it came because I was listening to one of my friends' podcasts who was nice enough to let me guest on the month before, and that's kind of where I was like, oh man, I kind of really want to do a podcast. And they had another guest on. His name's Steven Dutzman. Shout out to him and his show, Engaged Family Gaming. They're fantastic people. But he said, hey, there's this app called Anchor. You download it, you can record a podcast and post it all for free. Just do it. Like, if you want to try it, do it. And so I said, all right, you know what? I'm going to record a podcast on my way home from work. And I put a tweet out and I was like, hey, if I start a podcast today, what should it be about? And the first reply was my friend Dusty Hill, who said D&D. And you should talk about what your favorite spells are. So I did that, and I recorded myself. I put an AirPod in one ear. I was driving home and just talking to myself. And I posted it and felt really good about it, and so I kept doing it to an unhealthy degree because I was trying to do like 6 shows a week, where like I recorded one on the way to work, one on the way home, and then did that 3 days a week, and that wasn't great. And later on though, I was like, okay, I think I want to do better at this. So I contacted my sister-in-law, who is Allie Deichman, and she, I'm like, hey, we always talk about D&D and we always love having these long conversations about it. What if we just recorded ourselves and did that? And she was like, cool. So we started doing that. We met up at my house. We got some mics, and we rebranded it from Dungeon Driver to Difficulty Class. And we did that in, oh my gosh, June of 2019, I think. So that's like when the first actual Difficulty Class episode starts, and we've been doing it ever since. We've gone almost every week since then, one way or another, and it's been a blast. Got to meet some cool people. Yeah.
So what did you learn about podcasting when you were commute casting? Like how did that impact the way that you developed as I guess a podcast artist would probably be the way I want to put it.
I mean, probably the thing that taught me that I refuse to take into the future with me is that people will listen to it no matter the audio quality. Because I did have listeners and it sounded terrible, but it worked. And but now I'm like, I've got my Elgato mic. Like, I like having the nice setup and everything like that. Mm-hmm. But one of the things I think it did teach me is to pace myself. Like, it's a weird thing. It's pacing myself, but also content is king. Because I did have so many episodes at the beginning, when I tweeted out about my account or something like that, somebody would go check it, and there was already like 30 episodes for them to listen to. So it wasn't great because like I was like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do for this episode. I'm stressing out about it when I should be getting my work done. But because I had all of that content there, people gave me a better chance listening to it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like that's one of the things that I know going into a new show, I'm not going to have that. It is it's a work in progress. Like right now with Other Side of Suspicion, it's like my newest show that's not with you all lovely people. I know that it's not going to get the same amount of listens that Difficulty Class does because it's in a very small niche, and also it doesn't have 50, 60 episodes behind it that people can then binge and get into the show. They mm-hmm. might listen to one episode and be like, oh, I absolutely loved that. That was a fantastic one, and forget to come back the next week. Mm-hmm. So but at the same time, the pacing yourself thing, because I realized at one point, I'm like, I'm gonna run out of things to talk to myself about. So, that was another reason why Allie coming in was such a blessing, because I had another person there to come up with ideas. And, it wasn't just me talking to myself in my car and looking like a weirdo when I would sit on the side of the road before going into work and finishing the outro, and one of my coworkers going, "What is he doing?"
Did you ever have anybody come up and like knock on the window and be like, no, like outside?
Well, what's funny is it wasn't really a mistake, because I just, I like talking to my friends and stuff. I told someone that I was close to at the job that I had started a podcast, and then everyone in the office knew I had started a podcast within 3 days. And so they all just started calling me the podcaster. And I'm like, guys, I sit in my car and talk to myself. Don't do that.
Yeah, but because you record it, you're not crazy.
That's true. I guess that is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the best things that recording it by myself taught me.
And at what point did you realize that you were passionate enough about podcasting to have 2, 3, 4, 6 podcasts on the go?
Boredom. It was. We had difficulty class, and it was going well, and we were getting fantastic guests. Like, we've had Justice Harmon, we had Eric Jordan, we've had some great people. And I really loved doing that and talking about D&D. And really, like, the reason, the main drive behind difficulty class was, this is a type of D&D show that I wasn't finding at the time. I now know that there were others. Like, I know I'm not the first. Mm-hmm. But, like, I couldn't find a conversational D&D show. There's a bunch of actual plays out there, and don't get me wrong, they're fantastic, and I love them. But sometimes while I'm doing the dishes, I don't quite want to focus so hard that I'm paying attention to the story. I just want to hear some people talk about D&D. And so that was the main drive behind it. It was something that I was looking for that I didn't find. And so that's kind of where the other shows end up coming from. From the Same Mister was actually pitched by my siblings, because I had started difficulty class, and they're like, hey, what if we did a podcast about our story? Mm-hmm. And there were a few that were about this, and I knew that, but the thing was, like, every show, every family is going to have a different story. It's not going to be the same in any way. There might be, so I'll explain this a little bit for people who don't know. From the Same Mister is, I was born from donor conception. So there was no dad there. They went to the bank, and they looked at a folder, and they went, that guy sounds good, give me, and they had a baby. And because of that, they don't just, it's one and done. Like, they split it up. So I have a bunch of half siblings who I didn't know about until I was 30. And we all found out in different ways. I knew my whole life that I was born that way because I have gay moms, and it would have been hard to hide. And one of my sisters is the same way. So my other siblings did not know, found out in different ways. And so I knew that no matter what, if there were other shows like this, everyone has a different story. Everyone experiences this differently. And because Christy and I were had a really good, radio voice, we decided to start that and interview our siblings. So that one just kind of came out of the fact that it was, we wanted to do this. It seemed like a fun thing to do, and also to get to know each other better. And so we took a little bit and ended up getting it going during quarantine. And I think that's kind of where the rest of them come from, because I was in quarantine, I was furloughed, I just wanted to podcast all the time. And so, that's the funny thing is, all those shows, there's another one that doesn't even exist anymore. We had a show called I'm Gonna Podcast, which was just me and two of my friends being just, I don't even know. Idiots. We'd go in there with barely a plan and just start making stuff up and laughing. but we ended up deciding like we don't have any focus for this. So we stopped that one, and eventually it turned into Other Side of Suspicion, which was another show that I'm like, I love these paranormal shows. There's some that focus on comedy, but they don't do it the way, like I keep listening to them like, oh, I wish you did it like this. So why don't I try and do it with my friends? And so that's where that one came out of too. It's like, I love paranormal stuff. I love ghosts. I love cryptids. I love I love some conspiracy theories. Most of them are just terrible and hurtful, and you should not listen to them. But like the Men in Black, or the fact that the Illuminati has a underground bunker under the Denver International Airport, that stuff is great.
Harmless conspiracy theories is what you're saying.
Yeah, harmless, like just you could do a funny movie out of it kind of conspiracy theories. So like for the first season, I researched some of these that I was interested in. I wrote a script that was about 2,000 words. I meet up with my friends and I read it to them, and we take periodic breaks where we just kind of make fun of it and laugh about it. And then at the end decide whether we believe it, are suspicious of it, or disbelieve it.
Now, when you're doing a paranormal comedy podcast, a supernatural, like when you're doing this theme podcast, does this make you want to, like, man, I want to go to this haunted place?
Oh yeah, especially because one of my co-hosts, Kyle St. James, is I've tried, like he's out there. He is wild. Like he has the most chaotic energy I've ever heard. Like we did an episode about a supposed cursed painting. It was a painting of a crying boy, and the legend was that if you hung it in your house caught fire. And he was like, "Send me the painting. I will hang it up, and I will make fun of it every day." So yeah, I would love to go to a haunted house with him. If anybody's seen BuzzFeed Unsolved, I think it would be like that. Like he would just be Shane Madej going on to Goatman's bridge going, "Screw you, Goatman! This is my bridge now!" So yeah, no, I'd love to. But I have done it. I actually did a ghost investigation on the Queen Mary.
Oh yeah?
It was actually my wife and I's wedding anniversary. That's how we are. It's fun.
Just gonna. I was waiting for the pause to get awkward. That's what I was waiting for.
Yeah, there we go. You gotta get that. See those are the pauses that I love in a podcast, because it's the pause where someone checks their phone, where it's gotten quiet for a long enough time. We're like, oh, did it stop playing?
No, I'm looking at my data going out and my frames dropped, and everybody else got to experience the pause with us. That's except 10, 20 seconds later, as the internet allows.
Okay, so I'm gonna be honest. I have chat open here on my phone, and I see someone said National Treasure and National Trevor, and you have unlocked a special Trevor tidbit. In preschool, the kids in my class could not pronounce my name, and everyone called me Treasure.
Really?
Yes. I don't know why they couldn't say Trevor. They just kept going, "It's Treasure's fault." And then my stepbrother named his dog Treasure, and I just looked at him like, you.
Oh no, you definitely do that to a sibling. Are you kidding? Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. If it's a sibling, yeah, or like a close friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then they stare at you, and they're like, "Yeah, this is what I named it." Like
that was pretty much what it was.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So yeah, tell me about. I mean, a lot of the show's topics are really interesting, and I imagine we could probably spend the next 40 minutes going into any one of them.
You could make a whole show about it.
You could make a podcast about it and release it like weekly. But I'm trying to think of. So we crossed paths because you were recommended to us by someone, and I'm trying to remember who it was. But I'm not sure how you first met Eric and everybody else. Was it through the partner portal?
So I followed Clive on Twitter. I had found Idle Champions, and I was head over heels for the game. And through that, I'd found Eric Jordan and Clive on there. And I was like, occasionally like interacting with Clive, like he'd post something, I responded and whatnot, and eventually he followed me back. And then at one point I tweeted out about something that we did on difficulty class, and he listened to it and responded like, I really enjoyed this conversation. You guys are doing good work. And I was straight up just like, hey, if you liked that, we did an episode about and had a topic that was about idle champions, and sent it to him. He listened to it and was like, here's the partner program link. I'll prove you. And I was just like, hey. And then, yeah, so we were doing the partner program for quite a bit, and absolutely loved doing it because we love idle champions. Allie was the one that got me into idle champions. And yeah, then through that, I met Margaret, talked to her a bit, and then Eric, and got Eric on the show. Mm-hmm. By the way, forgive me if I don't read your facial expressions great. Your screen's completely green to me, and I can't quite make you out.
Well, as long as it's not green for the audience.
Yeah, no, it's not green for them. I can see that.
But it's probably a Zoom call thing, because the Zoom is looking at the XSplit, and the XSplit is looking through the cameras, and it's the wonders of technology, man. It's awesome. It's never has an issue.
Yeah.
But as long as the audience is seeing it and the local recording works, then yay.
Garwar said the green Zoom strikes again. Yes, it does, Gar, because it happened to you.
Yeah. Oh, did it?
Yeah, I did. It was hilarious. We were all sitting there just like, why is Gar green? Is he a goblin now?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I've had all kinds of strange glitches with conference calling over the last year and a half, where conference calling became the most essential part of your workday for some reason, because it's the only way to, have meetings now.
Oh yeah, but the weird thing is, I almost think that's how I was able to do the podcasting stuff I was able to, is because people got more comfortable with Zoom meetings or Discord calls and stuff like that.
Yep.
It, like, doing a podcast this way. I mean, this is the way that I podcast. I podcast right here with this mic and this setup. We hop on Discord, we bring up Audacity, and we record. And because people are now more used to that, it was easier to get people who had never podcasted or even thought about podcasting before to do it. And especially with my siblings, we don't live, most of us don't live anywhere near each other. One of us is in Scotland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, doing it via this isn't weird, because that's how we've talked. That's how we've gotten to know each other.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned siblings being spread out, because I have siblings in Texas, siblings in Hawaii, one sibling here, and I don't even see the one here because pandemic and small bubbles of people that hang out together. At least that's how we're handling it. Whereas the other ones, border is closed to non-essential travel. I know lots of people are doing it anyways, but they shouldn't be. Literally, this all started because people were traveling.
Yeah.
Anyways. Yeah. So I'm trying to think of where to go from here, because I know there's too many. When there's too many options, and you're like, it's like analysis paralysis, and you're just not sure which you want to cover.
I'm just so confusing. I'm the most confusing person.
Well, I know he likes podcasts.
Yeah.
I know he likes.
And I loved when you messaged me the other day. You're like, we can talk about your addiction.
Well, it just seems like you're awfully passionate about podcasts. But do you feel compelled to make more?
Yes. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm working on another one right now.
Oh, good. Good.
The thing with podcasts is like the reason I got into them was like not making them, but just listening to them. I had a job for quite a while where I was a parking lot attendant, and it wasn't the whole like I sit in a booth and it's warm and I go out and I take the keys and I drive it around. It was I sit in a camping chair in Ocean Beach and I write down the information of the car and the time, and I'm cold. So I didn't get
cold.
to
just hold on a second. Cold. What's cold for you? Because aren't you in San Diego?
Hush, you cold elitist. I can be cold outside.
It's Canada.
Yeah, I know you're a cold elitist. But I remember the times that stand out to me, of course, are the times where it was nighttime and it was the coldest it gets here in San Diego, and I'm trying to stay warm. So it was Like there, for some reason, the times that I was out there, it was like, hey, what if it were 44 in San Diego at night at 7 p.m. for no freaking reason other than to just freeze Trevor. But because I was out there and I didn't have anyone to talk to or interact with besides customers driving by and making terrible jokes, just the worst jokes. I found podcasts, specifically the IGN ones, and listened to people talk about video games for my entire shift. And that just kind of like I ended up loving the conversations and the way that the conversations flowed and the way the topics came up, and I loved that organization to it, while also getting out your thoughts and opinions and stuff. And I had been wanting to do a podcast since then. Like I was like very much just like, oh, I want to, but I don't know how. And I kept, and like back then in like the early 2010s, it wasn't easy to do because you'd have to pay for a server to host the files to then get the RSS feed, and then there, social media marketing was not what it is today, and networking and whatnot. And so I stopped thinking about it for a long time. I got to be on one podcast way back in the day, and it was great, and I wanted to do more, but I couldn't. And so when I found Anchor, I'm like, oh, I'm just going all in. Like, it's literally like 10 years of pent up wanting to podcast just coming out in the span of 2 years.
Okay. So now I have to know, what are these terrible jokes that they would do when you were sitting there as a parking attendant?
Well, so I can talk about this because the restaurant's closed. It doesn't exist anymore. I didn't make it close. It closed on their own accord. I knew the Dylan joke was coming.
Right. Yeah.
But
then I put rats in their kitchen and they were done.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was a Mexican restaurant called Natty's Mexican Restaurant, and I say jokes, but it was mostly just people just being themselves. like I took it as a joke because it made me roll my eyes, but because people would come in and they'd get the name wrong. They'd be like, "Is this parking for Natties?" And I'm like, "You're trying too hard. It's not that difficult. It's Natty's, real easy." The other one, I was having a particularly bad day, and this person drove up in an SUV, rolled down their window. They stopped their car to tell me, the parking lot attendant, we drove all the way from Utah to get here. And I my first instinct was hold up my blank clipboard and go, I have drawn all of the care that I have about this right here. I didn't do that, but that's what I wanted to do. I can't remember, because I know there were people that tried to do jokes, and I've blocked them because they were painful to my mental well-being. But eventually I ended up running the place, so I got from a parking lot attendant to like one of the head managers.
And then it closed.
Shut up. It was because the owners decided to sell it, and they sold it to the wrong person, and they closed it. Okay.
Not
all
right.
Fault. I did flip the sign for the last time, so technically I did close the place down.
All right. So tell me about how many episodes of Difficulty Class have you guys done at this point?
68.
68. Okay. Where do you want to take that podcast?
Oh man, I mean, that's like kind of the thing. Like, I don't know. Like, the other ones are a little bit easier to do because From the Same Mister and Other Side Suspicion are seasonal. Those were the kind of shows that I'm like, I don't want to make filler episodes, especially with From the Same Mister. I like Christy and I agreed that the last thing we wanted to do with that was to just try and milk it, where we're scrambling to find a topic to talk about when the show is supposed to be about, donor siblings finding each other and the experiences that they had. We didn't just want to be like, so did you ever wonder about what your dad looked like? I don't know. And Other Side of Suspicion, like, again, I love paranormal podcasts and stuff, but like, when I would almost rather them take a break and figure out what they're going to do instead of like, all right, this week we're talking about the Missouri Bigfoot. So that one gives us more time to take a break, figure out what we want to do and what we want to do next and how to make it better. Difficulty class we do every week. And so, you know, we've noticed a few times in the past, we've gotten into a rut where we're like, oh, we're not really doing anything more. We're just doing more of the same. This year so far, we've had guests on like almost every week. The first week we had the 3 Dusties that run the podcast from Dust to Dice. Last week we had Shar from the actual play show Tabletop Titties, which was fantastic and was a joy to talk with. And we're going to have a guest this week and next week. So that's kind of what we're doing right now, is we just want to talk to more of the community. We like reaching out and talking with new people and discovering new things. I mean, the surprise, the pandemic ruined a lot of things. I mean, at the end of 2019, we were making plans of like, okay, we're going to go to D&D Live. We're going to network. We're going to talk to more people. We're going to try and get these bigger names on the show and have these conversations about D&D. And then a pandemic hit and we didn't get to go to any of those things.
We didn't get to go to D&D Live either, man. It's you're not the only one.
No, I know that. But no. So like, we took a break, kind of at the beginning of the pandemic because we decided to do a season of games, and we might do it again because it was a lot of fun. We recorded 2 actual play sessions. One playing a game called Monster of the Week. And then running Call of Cthulhu, and we actually had Puffin Forest from YouTube, who is actually a really good friend of Allie's, run a game of that for us. And we really loved doing that, and we split them up over the course of like 5 or 6 episodes, and it worked out really well. And so we might want to do more of that here and there. But yeah, I think the thing that I'd really want with difficulty class, if I'm being honest, and chat, I'm looking at you. I would love more community engagement with it, because like we do have some listeners who write in pretty often, but like I would love to get more, you know, listener questions or feedback or suggestions. I would love to know what people would want to hear from us, because at this point we kind of feel like we've done all the stuff that we want to do, but we know we want to do more. We're just trying to figure out what that is.
Is that something that you find is like a kind of a key difference between doing pre-recorded podcasts that you release or a live stream that you later release as a podcast?
Oh yeah. I mean, like, I absolutely love the fact that at the end of every Champions of Lore, we have Jay, who, again, I know you're in chat, Jay. You're fantastic. Sasha, you're great too. I just only gotten to work with you once. But like, I love the fact that we have a text document full of either questions, people riffing on jokes that we did, just engaging in some way. And we get to sit there and either have like a fun conversation about it or just laugh for 5 minutes straight, and I break B-Dave. Like I that is one of my favorite parts of that show, is the part where we just look at what chat's been doing.
Yeah, it's one of my highlights too, when I get to watch. It's funny because of the shows we have on, it's the one that's the hardest for me to pay attention to, because it's in the smack in the middle of Monday meeting day, where it's where you set up the entire week, and like I can usually only poke in for a few minutes here and there.
That was only a source of my panic for a little bit, when I was just like, if I have a question, Dylan might not see it.
No, I see it, but I usually have it muted because I'm in meetings.
I see.
Yeah, and then I listen to it in its podcast form before. It's usually when I check it out. Which I don't know. I mean, on the one hand, I don't get the expressions on B-Dave and Aaron's faces when they're reacting to things. But on the other hand, I don't know. I just think the recording is nicer to listen to.
Yeah, I mean that's why like I'm really glad that we're able to record with Audacity, because again, chat, if you haven't checked out the podcast feed for Champions Lore, please do it. I put a lot of work into that. But like that's why we record on Audacity, so there is a sound difference between the stream and the podcast. Like I do really enjoy. I even actually thought about maybe doing it with difficulty class, where we live stream the show and then put it out as the thing, because I have been enjoying it a lot. But yeah, you can't get the same audio quality through Twitch.
No. It's something that we notice a lot on Bardic Inspiration. It's like, how good is the Zoom call doing today? And how good is Jason's audio coming through for the performance? It would probably be significantly better if he was host and producing and doing all of it, because he could pipe a much better audio feed out to the internet and then let Twitch, turn it into whatever it turns it into.
Do what they do.
Yeah, but still, yeah, I like nice audio quality. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Well, that's one thing, like with Champions of Psychology, Dr. B is really passionate about that, and I love that he is.
He's got a really nice mic set up at home now, too.
Oh, yeah. Very jealous.
Yeah.
Like, I love my Elgato, and I had to, like, hunt down this thing, but he's got a Rode mic, man. That thing is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I remember him saying that he has very specific, a sensory idiosyncrasies, and he's like, it needs to sound specifically like this, but also great. Like he needed, he had very, very strict requirements for what he wanted his microphone to sound like. So, and so he went for it. And I mean, the cool thing about production and audio equipment is you can spend as much money on it as you want. Like the sky is the limit for what you can invest into it if you really want to. Yeah.
I mean, like. The kind of just equipment overall, like I got my stimulus money on time this time. Oh my god, I couldn't believe it. The last stimulus took me 5 months to get, and it so I was really good in adulting with the first one, and so when I got this next one, I was like, I'm gonna spend it all on streaming equipment. So I have an Elgato ring light now. I've got a stream deck, which has been helping out with not just the streams that we do here on this channel, but also on my channel itself, the Trevor, where my friends and I just stream games. And it's been really nice to like just be able to push button and do stuff, or just get my lighting right, though I still keep getting blown out during the Champions of Lore stream. But it's a learning process, but I'm loving getting to know this stuff, kind of how like I got to know the podcasting side of it, like learning the difference between a directional mic and an omnidirectional mic and stuff like that, and now getting to understand like how XSplit or Streamlabs or OBS works, what is good for stream quality with a camera, and how to set all that stuff up. It's been a blast to learn. Yeah.
Have you put money aside yet to to spend on like a 4K camera and like an ingest card, capture card in your tower and all that stuff yet?
I have a capture card in my Amazon cart right now. I made a joke yesterday about playing the new Pokemon Snap when it comes out for as long as I did when I was 12 years old. And then I was like, wait a minute, I could turn that into work. Oh God, yeah. The 4K camera. Yeah, we're my wife and I are looking at one, because she's looking into getting into some Instagram stuff with her stationery. She does stuff with like making notebooks, well, not making them from scratch, but like doing the layouts and everything like that, and fountain pens and calligraphy. So we've been looking at one together, but that's a little bit down the road. I won't have B-Dave set up anytime soon.
Well, B-Dave is a 24/7 operation, right?
Yeah,
he doesn't sleep.
No,
he's always going. And I can tell because his tweets are timestamped, and I'm like, there's no way he went to bed.
I'll wake up in the morning and see a funny tweet from B-Dave, and I'm like, that was at 2 a.m. What are you doing, sir?
Yeah. And then he followed it up at 4 a.m. and at 6 a.m. and yeah. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Maybe he did the Leonardo da Vinci thing, and he like catnaps briefly, like at a really efficient, like every few hours, like passes out like hard into for a few seconds, and then is like back at it. I don't know.
Either that, or his Vampire the Masquerade character is the real B. Dave, and this is the role play.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe it. I believe it. Yeah. So, what does Trevor Bettis do in his? What does the Trevor Bettis do in his off time? What do you, especially in an era of not going anywhere or doing anything?
Yeah, like ideally the off time would be spent writing. That's like, I have a passion for podcasting, but the passion for writing has been a lot longer. I've just been more successful at this one so far. You know, when you tell someone you're a podcaster, they're like, "Oh, can I listen to your show?" And you're like, "Yeah, here you go." But when you're a writer and you don't have anything published, and they go, "Oh, would I know any of your work?" You're like, "No, you wouldn't. Absolutely not."
Yeah. Well, I mean, but you could script your podcast, right?
Yeah, I mean, script them in a certain way, because like I said, I write a script for Other Side of Suspicion, but that's me telling the story and the information about what's going on. We don't script like the jokes or anything like that. So it's the script for itself is kind of more rigid, where I'm just trying to get the information out. I'm still using it in the Trevor voice, so it's, you know, it's got whatever kind of baseline humor I put into it. But no, like my passion is like writing fantasy, sci-fi, horror, and stuff like that. And you know, I haven't gotten to do a lot of it this year, and it's not because I'm so busy podcasting. It's because pandemic did not make a great mental, you know, place for me to sit down and try and write about, you know, dragons and magic and spaceships, because I couldn't focus on anything. I've been trying to get more back into it, and trying to set aside time to do it. So right now, yeah, more of my free time is getting put into writing and whatnot. But if it's not that, then I'm just playing video games. I'm chilling with my wife and our cat, and we're playing video games.
Oh yeah, okay. Console gamer, PC gamer?
Well, console gamer mainly, but now because of y'all, I am a PC gamer. I was pretty much. I will use to quote the great Fast and the Furious. I was ride or die on consoles, man. I enjoy the fact that I take it out of the box, I put it on the thing, I plug in the wires, and it works.
Well, no, then it updates now. Let's be honest.
Okay, but yeah, but that's still, it knows how to update itself.
It used to be you put it down and it works.
Just like, everything's broken, we don't know why, hunt down what needs updating. And I'm like,
yeah. Like I got a Super Nintendo back there. You plug you find something that you can still plug it into.
Yeah.
With its cables, and it just turn it on and you're playing that game.
I'll be honest, when they did the mini NES and stuff like that, I was so like, I really hope that they somehow make it so it needs firmware updates here and there, because I think that'd be the funniest thing in the world.
Firmware updates for games that are 30 years old? Come on.
I know, it would just be the most modern thing. It's like, hey, you got all the old stuff you wanted, but now it's terrible. But yeah, so I mainly play on right now PS5, because that's where my friends.
Because you got one.
I did. Well, and it was okay. Chat. I you might already do it. Follow @Wario64 if you just don't want any money in your wallet ever, because they tweet out all the amazing deals are going on, and because I was had notifications onto it, I was playing Destiny with my friends. He tweeted out the day the pre-orders went live, Amazon live, and so we all went and grabbed one and were able to get it. But yeah, like I'm big. I used to be a lot bigger into gaming overall.
Yeah.
Podcasting about D&D and other stuff has kind of made me move focus from that, because like all the shows that I listened to were about gaming news and stuff. Like I knew, you know, who the developers were, and you know what the controversy had been going on with it. I was up to date on all the news about what was going on in the gaming industry, and honestly, it was kind of felt like a flip of the coin that I did a D&D podcast instead of a video games podcast, because that's that like it could have gone either way. I'm glad it went the way it did because I'm having a blast doing this. I don't think I would have as much with video games, considering all of the drama that happened last year, especially with Cyberpunk. Eventually I just don't want to talk about this anymore.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because as somebody who works in marketing, I can't not pay attention to those things and read about it and discuss it. But
I think there's a difference between like reading it and discussing it. Like, you know, when CD Projekt Red comes out with that video and I sit there and watch it and I have my own thoughts about it. I go, okay, I'm taking it this way or that. I see other people's thoughts on it. I read Jason Schreier's article about what's going on, and I can just leave it at that. I can know about it and be up to date on it, but then to have to sit and record a podcast about it and kind of just be talking about the negative parts of it so much, it just I can see it on my friends who do that, where it just starts to get draining. Where like you'll hear them go like, this is the 4th week we've talked about Cyberpunk being just, you know, crashing, and I can hear it in their voice. They're like, I want to talk about literally anything else.
To a degree, that's the life of a content creator, though. If you have a niche that niche. Are video games even niche anymore? It's the biggest industry, but it's bigger than film, especially last year. But you know, if that's what you're known for talking about, then you get kind of locked in. Whereas I don't find it difficult to keep talking about like D&D. Because
and don't get me wrong,
my experiences with D&D are pretty great.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I know there was problems last year and they're still present, and we talked about them, and we had people on to talk about them, and that one felt different than like the video game thing, because in D&D, I can at my table institute those changes. I can have those conversations with my friends as like, hey, we're not going to use this ableist language anymore. We're not going to, you know, this way that this is presented is not a great way to do it. So we're going to change that. And we can have a conversation on that about the show, about ways about going about that. There, you can actually talk about a way to do change other than just being stuck there with video game news. Just like, hey, it turns out the studio was having extremely bad labor practices, and all I can do is talk about it and point you in the direction of those people to maybe help, you know, get them new jobs somewhere or something like that. But that's the most that I can do. So I felt like there was a little bit of a difference between that, at least for me.
No, that's a really good point, actually, especially the part about being able to make changes and institute changes at your table. Yeah. Because, you know, that's the kind of game that D&D is versus other games. You can say, this universe is like this. You can establish your tone in your session 0, and, you know, depending on what kind of reality you want your players to be living in, you can make changes to it one way or another.
Yeah, like one of the stories that I've told on difficulty class that was kind of an eye-opener years ago for me about the whole situation with how you know, some tables treat the races of the world is I had a player who was playing a dragonborn, and we were running through Phandelver, and he went into the tavern. He's like, oh, I bet everybody's giving me weird looks. And I went, why? And he goes, because I'm a dragonborn. I'm like, are you like glowing? You have something on your cheek, like what, like got a little mustard or something? And he's like, no, it's because I'm a dragonborn. They you know, probably don't like me. And I'm like, oh, I just straight up just look like that T'Challa gif that he's like, we don't do that here. Like, everybody's fine. Like, they might think you're a jerk because you're a jerk, or they just don't like you, but it's not because you're a dragonborn. They, you know, you could bite their head off, man.
Yeah. Did you mention that you breathe fire?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Okay. Yeah. And still just mad at you for managing to get a PS5.
I'm sorry.
No, you know what it is. It's if you think it's hard to get one in the United States, it's harder everywhere else.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah. We didn't get a lot of them here.
Yeah.
So,
dude, I worked at GameStop during the 360 or I worked there during the Wii launch, and
Ooh,
that
would have been a crazy one.
Yeah,
I remember how hard those were to get for
that.
like the first 2 years they were out. Yeah.
Okay, so check this out. Here's what happened. The night that the Wii launched, I got there because I was gonna work the midnight launch with my manager. It's just gonna be the two of us. And she goes, "Oh, did you grab your pre-ordered one?" And I went, "My pre-ordered what?" And she goes, "Yeah, everybody at the store was able to pre-order one." And I went, "You could, excuse me?" And she's like, "Oh, nobody told you?" I'm like, No one told me anything. I'm going to Target after this and waiting in line for 8 hours. What do you mean I could have pre-ordered one? So then I got to work the launch for the Wii and then immediately go to the Target down the street and wait outside with my friend for 8 hours. But we got one.
Yeah, I love video games. I don't know that I would do that. I never have. I always just wait and get one later.
To be fair, I was like 18. I'm not the smartest person at 18.
And it's not like you have anything to be doing when you're 18 usually.
Also, I see someone in the chat said, "Ew, working at GameStop." You're not wrong. I once almost got written up because I put together the Mario Galaxy standee wrong, and they thought I had done it on purpose to make it look like Mario was pole dancing. And I went, "Listen, that's hilarious. I didn't do that though, but now that you pointed out, I can't unsee it."
One of the people in chat was asking if we play any other RPG systems in addition to D&D.
Oh God, I mean, I own a lot of them, and I love playing them, but I don't get to play them as much as I would like.
Yeah, it's funny. So one of the things I've really appreciated about 5e coming out is how accessible it is. In that it's easy to convince people to play it, and then it's also really easy to teach them to play it once you get them at the table. Like I play 5e with my wife all the time. She had no interest in learning other editions, but I've played using the World of Darkness rule set. Played Pathfinder like once. I played Shadowrun. Played a bunch of editions of D&D, and of all of them, I'm enjoying 5e the most. But
yeah,
I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to actually be able to do some kind of like Shadowrun or something in a not complicated rule set.
I'm glad you added that because I would have.
Yeah.
I do play a weekly game of Pathfinder 2nd Edition when I'm able to make it. I haven't been able to as much recently, but we've been playing that game for almost a year now. It's been over a year. Yeah, it's been over a year now.
It's 2021, man. We made it through 2020.
It's still March.
It's March.
Yeah, and like I enjoy Pathfinder 2nd Edition for certain things, and I enjoy playing with my friends. But yeah, I honestly, for some of the simplicity sake of it, I would rather be playing 5th Edition. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of games that I come up with and want to play that do not fit into 5th Edition, and I'm very much against trying to like just shoehorn new genres into D&D 5th Edition. I'm like, if it's a fantasy game, let's do it. But like, if you wanted to do like, say like, oh, I really love the show Supernatural, I want to do that at the table, get Monster of the Week. Like, if you want to do sci-fi, there's plenty of things. If you want Star Wars, there is a fantastic Star Wars RPG. And so it's, even for Christmas, my wife and I got Cyberpunk Red and the Alien starter kit. We've not been able to touch them, but we just keep buying RPGs.
Do you like? So would you say that you collect them?
I mean, yeah, like I definitely do, but collecting them it's not like I get it and I'm just like, ooh, new shiny RPG. You'll go right there on the bookshelf. Like I sit there and I read them for, that ends up being my reading time most of the time, is because I'm just sitting there and reading a rule book because I want to see how they interpreted rules that you could have at a table. Like with Alien, like I'm like, okay, I've watched these movies, I love these movies, what did you do mechanically to convey the fear, the terror, and some of the heroic moments of that franchise? So that's, I may not get to play all of them, but I do love reading them. So that's fun.
So you say you're a fan of the Alien films?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Which one's your favorite?
My initial reaction is always Aliens, because that's the first one I actually saw. But like, honestly, it would probably just be the first Alien. Like, I love the elevator pitch of it's a haunted house in space, and they're all trapped there, literally nowhere to go. There's death on the outside of the walls, and there's death on the inside of the walls. And the fact that, like, you know, nowadays you see the movie and you're like, that's great, but the fact that, like, Ridley Scott made the movie with the intention of making it look like Dallas was the main character, and that's what everyone expected to happen, and then, you know, it's Ellen, and she is the most badass character of all time, and then she just keeps getting more badass. I love that. That's why those first two are just solid for me.
Yeah, I love that especially in the first film, that she has common sense. They're like, we want to bring this thing aboard. And she's like, no. Oh my God. I'm not opening the door for you. Are you kidding me?
I love yelling.
And then she gets overridden by Ian Holmes' Ash, who obviously you later learn has an ulterior motive. He was definitely going to let it in either way, but... Yeah.
My wife and I at one point joked about doing a drinking game where we take a shot every time Ellen said the right thing.
Yeah. Why don't we take off and nuke the site from orbit? Yeah.
But yeah, the other ones I'm not like. I mostly just love those first two. Alien 3, and then Resurrection. I could, if every copy of that film caught fire right now, I wouldn't be upset. It could just go away.
You know, the funny thing about Alien Resurrection is that, like, the director's a good director, and all the actors in it are really good actors. And, like, it's just not a great movie. Nope. You just kind of watch it, you're like, more isn't better.
Well, and like, for the longest time, I'd always heard about the William... I love how we said we were going to talk about Destiny, now we're deep diving into Alien. This is great. But I always heard about the William Gibson script for Alien 3, and how everyone was like, oh, it was going to be so
have you not read
better.
It?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay.
It's not great.
It's William Gibson. Yeah.
But, like, I like William Gibson stuff, but it's like, he made the same mistakes as Resurrection, just a film earlier. I'm like, why? What is your fascination with just making humans into aliens? Why? This is terrifying. It's terrifying on its own. Like, you don't need to do more of that.
Well, I mean, you know, his was just about corporate exploitation and communism, because that's what was happening in the world at the time that he wrote it.
and that's true. Yeah. But I wish, like, more of that had come out instead of just like, oh, we're gonna ramp up the alien again. I'm like, we don't need that.
Yeah.
So, like, but okay, I will say this: I just unabashedly loved the first AVP movie. Alien vs. Predator was just
with the brown-eyed Predator kid. Ugh.
Brown-eyed what?
Watch it again, and you'll be like, now that I've said that.
Oh, okay. I'll watch for it. But no, like, like all I wanted as a kid, because, like, even though I wasn't able to, my parents wouldn't let me watch Alien and Predator, I was obsessed with the toys, and I bought so many of them, and I was just, and I had no idea what was going on with them, and so to get to see it on screen, I was just freaking out as a teenager and loving every minute of it. It's terrible, though. It is a terrible movie.
Well, I mean, I thought it was bad, but then I saw AVP Requiem, and I'm like, no, this is bad.
God. That's okay. I will say, have the book, the two of the books of the Alien vs. Predator novels are fantastic, and I actually think are not just fantastic, but legitimately good sci-fi. If they had made that into a movie, perfection. It would have been great.
Well, instead we got Prometheus and Alien Covenant. So.
Oh, God. Yep, and the Neil Blomkamp movie's not going to happen now because
Ridley Scott shut that down. And it's funny because, like, people were so excited about it because the key art that they'd done in advance, and he had the actors on board. Yeah, he was going to retcon out a bunch of films.
Yeah. Oh my God, would have been so down for it.
That was disappointing. So on that note, which of the Alien vs. Predator or Predator films disappoints you the most?
Oh man. Okay, so
it's a harder question than asking you which one's good, because there's like two or three universally beloved ones.
I guess it would have to be the one that I've refused to watch, which is the most recent Predator movie. Like, I found out what was happening in that, and I went, no.
Predators, I think it was called?
No, it's The
Predator. Yeah.
Predators?
Yeah. The one that Shane Black did. Yeah.
I watched the Everything Wrong with, and I went, I made a good decision.
Yeah, it was really bad. Yeah. Yep. It was pretty bad. Was it the worst one, though? I don't know.
Because that's the thing. You're right. AVP Requiem is one of the worst things ever.
Yeah, which is funny because it's juxtaposed with some of the coolest stuff that's happened in any of them. Like when that Predator's got
the Pred Alien.
When it throws its little blade thing and it smokes the person and carries them up into the ceiling, splitting them apart. You're like, God damn!
I know,
but then the movie sucks.
I think that's the thing. That's why I can't say that it is the absolute worst. Is because there was moments I was like, that was awesome, but then the rest of it happens.
Yeah.
I'm still proud of us that we've gone an hour and haven't talked about Destiny.
I mean, we can if you want. Yeah. I have one of my Moments of Triumph shirts on.
I'm wearing a Hunter shirt despite I'm a Warlock main. It's just pretty.
Too many Hunters. Everybody plays Hunter.
There are.
There's a gajillion of them. Although I do take a lot of joy out of getting rid of them in Iron Banner and Crucible.
Oh, yeah. So, chat, just so you know, like, Dylan and I had a lot of meetings before Champions of Lore, but at one point there was a Destiny thing sitting behind him when we got into a meeting. I was like, do you play Destiny? And we spent 30 minutes of that meeting talking about Destiny.
Yeah, it was productive.
It was productive. The funny thing was, it really was. We actually got a lot done in that meeting, but we talked about Destiny so much. It's a blast, you know.
Yeah, it's when there's new stuff to do in it, it's great.
See, that's the thing. I don't think there has to be new stuff in it, and I think that's what what I really want to get. I just want something to replay in that game. Like Menagerie was almost there for me, where I could just sit there and replay it and replay it and replay it and replay it. Because I don't need good loot every time I do something. Sometimes I just want to play Destiny and have fun. So if I had a good replayability thing, which I think was why my friends and I mainly sit in strikes, because we just hop in there, we shoot some aliens, and we talk and we have fun. And then there's days where, we decide we hate ourselves and try to do Nightfall on the hardest difficulty or do a raid on the last minute.
Hey, you know what? Grandmaster Nightfalls are fun. Yeah.
I can't. It says that, like, I love that game, but I'm never going to be the one that's like, I have to get max power. I have to grind out and get as much stuff as I can with it, because I know I don't have the time for it. And I know I'm not going to enjoy it as much as if I'm just hanging out with my friends and playing the game. So I always reserve myself, like, yeah, I'll do it eventually. I'll get there. Like
I have a small child, so I play games when I have time to play games, which is less and less.
Yeah. It was funny because you messaged me the other day about not getting to play until after 9 p.m. and I wanted to message about, like, yeah, I know, because that's about the time that you messaged me about Destiny. It's usually about 9-10 p.m.
yeah, usually. Yeah. Hey man, that Hawkmoon quest was fun.
It
was I really enjoyed going into it not knowing anything about it and attempting to solo it without watching a video or reading a guide or something in advance.
I did. I didn't even.
Which led to a lot of me shouting at my screen. But
my group and I took a wrong turn, and about 5 minutes later, I'm like, I'm watching the video.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Now I've DM'd you a map.
It's true.
So you can get around.
Get as lost, hopefully.
Yeah. Anyways, I know you have a lot of other things to do, because you were mentioning before that a lot of stuff in your schedule all fell on today. A
bunch of deliveries that got delayed suddenly are like, we're coming tomorrow. You have to build all of it. So
yeah,
that's gonna be fun.
Yep. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. It's fun to work with you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for doing such a stellar job with Champions of Lore and now Champions of Psychology.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah, and I hate to cut you off, but So huge thanks to Trevor for joining me this afternoon. A little unfair of me to get the last word in that way, but we joked about it before the show started. It wasn't me being a jerk. And you got timed out by Nightbot for using caps. That's even better. Anyways, welcome to Idle Insights, everybody. My name is Dylan. Yes, there is a hidden code. Yes, it has been talked about on stream. No, nobody in chat seems to have found it yet, but you will, I'm sure. You guys you're all pretty clever. We got a couple of questions in that weren't directly related to Trevor, which is why I didn't integrate them into the conversation. So apologies for that. Oh no, somebody says that they found it. Oh, okay, it was found. Okay, it was found there. So there, it was really easy. Sasha's now telling me that they actually found it pretty early. Well, fine. I will make it more difficult next time, like the remaining hidden combinations for the year. Okay, somebody asked early on, and apologies if they're no longer still in chat, but they'd asked a bunch of times, and they were told to ask, can you speak about the math involved in the development of the game Idle Champions / in general? And I can't. The only person who can speak to the math of the development of the game, literally the only one, is Justin. So, the next time Justin is on, I will be sure to get him to talk about that, because that is far from my expertise, and so I'm not even gonna try. But I appreciate you asking, and yes, there is an expert out there who can talk about those things to you. Alrighty. Let's see. Somebody asking if we'll ever get Keen from Beyond Heroes. Keen being a TJ Storm's character. It's a good question. I can't talk about too much related to upcoming champions, but I can say that we have 6 months worth of characters in the next 6 months worth of characters in various stages of development right now. Some of whom have many assets already in the game files and that data miners have seen some or all of. Many of whom haven't made it that far yet, that are in various stages of design and balancing and art being done, etc. Because we work pretty far out now. What can I tease about this year? I can say that some of them are really good surprises, and I don't want to spoil them. I can. So it's funny because right now is Talon's event, and I hate to take away from one character's event, especially since we are immensely proud of the work that we've done with Talon and how well Talon has turned out in game, and working with Sarah has been awesome, a true joy to work with. So I don't want to take anything away from that. So next week, when we no longer have Talon's event running, I will talk about the next champion coming to the game, at least a little bit, because I think everybody will be very, very excited about them. In terms of what I can tease coming up, I think that we have a number of adventuring parties that are not fully in the game, and we are going to keep working towards completing them. As best we can. As well, once we get into the late spring, early summer, we're very, very excited about some new characters that are coming to the game. Part of another party of adventurers that we're very, very excited to start talking about. So I know that's vague. I know I didn't spoil much. I just... It's tough for me to talk about it because I don't want to spoil surprises, because I think surprises are awesome. And it's a little early to talk about some of them. But we have 2 champions coming in February. One of them is a CNE original that we created based on popular feedback from players, actually. And another one is a character from a show that we've already added characters from before. And then the following month, we have back-to-back characters coming to the game or rather the following events, that are from the same adventuring party. That we're really, really, really excited to talk about, because the wonderful humans, wonderful real-life humans that we've had a chance to work with on those characters are some of our favorite people. They're just awesome. And I look forward to inviting them to join me on Bardic Inspiration, which comes back next week, to write songs for their characters, provided their schedules permit, as well as a few of the other things coming up. So yeah, fun stuff. Let's see. Hi guys, I would like to get the slot for Briv Golden Epic. Why is it not possible to purchase it in any way outside of a random chance in a wild offer, which may never happen? It's the way that it is currently implemented. Previously to the wild offer system, once you missed a Golden Epic, that was it. It was gone. And so that was an attempt to make those things more accessible. But the wild offer system is kind of an algorithm-based thing that looks at what champions you own and what golden epics you haven't already got for them, and then it tries to put together offers that it thinks might be interesting to you. So, yeah. Oh, there's a Destiny question here. Is Destiny still worth playing at this point if you haven't dove into it ever? I mean, this is the D&D Twitch, and this is also the weekly stream for Idle Champions, so I won't talk about Destiny too much now that Trevor has moved on from the show. But I am a huge fan of narrative-heavy, well-built world-building stuff. You know, I played World of Warcraft for a long time, mostly because I have my default setting for a game is hardcore usually. Like I tend to be a hardcore player. And then I can't play it at a lower level than that. So when I no longer had time to Mythic Raid, I stopped playing WoW altogether. And I've leveled up recently, and I'm like, nope, can't do it again. Don't have time to be super casual. I'm just not good at it. But Destiny. So Destiny has a really, really epic and awesome narrative, I think, in terms of science fiction. It's not wholly original across the board, because what is at this point? I mean, by the time Arthur C. Clarke was done writing science fiction novels, space opera, nearly every idea had been done. And it's, there's only been a handful of authors since then who've like really contributed to science fiction in meaningful ways. Destiny has an awesome narrative that you can actually catch up to really easily by listening to a content creator like My Name is Bife, who all he does is make lore videos, and he has a really awesome voice to listen to. And so you can get the entire narrative of Destiny's history up to the modern Destiny 2 game just by listening to the first episode of that, which is it's like 3 hours long, but don't listen to it in one sitting. Don't sit down and watch it. Just listen to it, and you'll eventually get through it. And there's some really cool stuff in it that sets the stage for what I think is a really compelling space fantasy. And I think that the game leans more towards fantasy than science fiction in most ways. If you like first-person shooters that have space magic in them, that's kind of what Destiny is. You can be a space cowboy, a space marine, or a space wizard. Those are your three options. And I think that raiding in Destiny is one of the most rewarding team-based activities I've ever experienced in gaming. Personally. A lot of fun with it. It's a live service model these days. They have updates that come out, I think it's about quarterly for their seasons at this point, and then annually for their expansions. And depending on how hardcore of a player you are, you can play through all that content really fast or not. I think if you take your time with it, it's rewarding, and it's something that you can chip away at once your daughter's finally gone to sleep, and you've watched something with your wife and she's heading to bed, and you're like, I'm going to stay up for another hour or two and play some Destiny. It's a good rewarding cycle, I think. Yeah. But it's I still like it. I still play it a lot. Bungie does a good job with the gunplay. I just think that their subreddit sometimes the subreddit has a cycle of honeymoon phases when new stuff comes out and everybody's happy, and then when they play through it all because they're so hardcore, they get cranky again, and then they stay cranky for long stretches of time, which I don't know how healthy that is. But if you're not getting enough content out of your game, play something else as well. Play Idle Champions. Anyways, Alrighty, at the beginning of the show, you were saying someone lived in a haunted house. Who was it? I feel them because I got some weird stuff going on in my house too. Oh wow, okay. So when I grew up, one of my closest friends, Clayton, lived in a 120-year-old house, and he grew up in this house. His mom and his mom's sister grew up in the house. Before his family owned it, the previous owner hung herself on the apple tree outside the kitchen window. And and then there was also like one of those like creepy horror movie style painted portraits of this woman above the mantelpiece in their living room, above the fireplace that they never touched, that was always there. And weird stuff always happened in that house. Like we would know that we were the only people there. Like his mom was out, his brother wasn't home, etc. And so we knew it was only the two of us in the house, and his bedroom was upstairs. And we'd we're gonna go watch television and play video games in the living room, and we'd turn off everything upstairs, like everything, lights. Go downstairs, and we'd be downstairs for like a half hour, and then you start hearing footsteps upstairs. And later on, when you go up, all the lights would be on, but they would be on from the master bedroom in the hall, and then in this room that was now a storage room, but that used to be a study. And it was just stuff like that all the time. I caught up with him long after we'd graduated high school, because his family eventually sold the place. And they said that after they sold it, when the next tenants went in, they opened the door and they went in the place, and the painting that was on above the fireplace had been smashed on the floor. So, anyways, yeah, that place was haunted as hell. Indisputably, I have no doubt. Good times. So Trevor, if you're still here, which you're not, because I know you're busy, but you can talk about that one on your podcast. I'd be more than happy to try and connect you with the details to that. Alrighty. The next question. So I noticed one thing earlier. I started a free play of a patron and finished it without completing stage 1. Since I went with the wrong patron and I still got 3 patron currency, is this working as intended? So Silver Anthelus, that's a better question for a support ticket through Sean, because he can take a look at your game data and we can see what happened. Because off the top of my head, I have no idea if that's working as intended or not. It sounds like it's not. But it really helps to be able to look at the back end and see what kind of things were happening in your client at that time. Alrighty. Question. When will you get the characters from Mars's game in Idle Champions? Oh, you're talking about Twice in a Blue Moon? I'm not going to lie, we haven't thought about it. But it's an interesting question. Thanks for asking that one, Master Burglar. Yeah. Is that something that everybody would want to see? Like, do you want to see... God, I've forgotten Garwars. I've forgotten all the characters' names in that show. I should rewatch it. Is that something you want to see in the game? Alrighty. Next question. What are the chances of there being a magic tank in the next 6 months? So, Kuvu Plan, that's a great question that is a challenging one to answer. A couple times we've attempted to design champions that ended up being tanks that use magic, and then that hasn't actually been the case by the time they get made into the game. And typically, because we do a lot of characters that are based off either Forgotten Realms novels or that people play on different shows, and being a magic-based tank isn't something that tends to come up. I, anecdotally can't think of one right now. I'm not saying there aren't any, but I just, nothing's coming to mind. And I would personally love to see something like an Abjuration Wizard, who is a tank support, who, shields and heals characters while, supporting or something like that. That'd be really cool. There aren't any planned as far as I know. Yeah. Good question. All right, next. 2 questions from Garwar. Who is the champion topic for next week's Bardic Inspiration? And will you be uploading the Bardic Inspiration with Ed Greenwood to YouTube? I didn't upload that. Whoops. I will upload that after today's show. write that down on my to-do list. Hold on a second. No, that was me forgetting because the final week of last year was bonkers. Where is... I'll just put it up here. Let's see. Okay, I have added it to my list to get done after this show. And as for who the topic is, well, I figure we talk about that during the beginning of the episode. It's been a little while. We didn't poll at the end of the Ed Greenwood episode after we did the elucidation of Elminster. We didn't poll the audience to see what you guys wanted to do next. So, yeah. It's funny actually. Since that has happened, we've actually on a number of occasions we've had people ask about Bardic Inspiration, like getting to be a guest or something. And there's some really cool people who we've talked to about the potentially having as guests on the show. I don't know how many it'll work out with because schedules are schedules, and as it turns out, the cooler somebody is, the busier they tend to be. But we'll see. Yeah. Would a druid tank count as a caster? So not really. So we have a druid tank already, and what happens is when they're a bear or a moose or whatever, their attacks are not magical. And I think when somebody says they want a magical tank, they're hoping for a tank whose abilities and attacks are magic based, because then that will help them to be a tank for an Elcoria Stone Marrow magic DPS formation, which is not something that's not a niche that we haven't filled yet. Yeah. Somebody else was asking if Bruce Cordell could be a guest. Garth Mindfeather, do you mean on this show or do you mean on one of our other ones? Because Bruce Cordell is an author, right? Does a bunch of... Yeah. Used to work on D&D. I'm sorry, I'm just looking him up on Wiki because his name rang a bell. Worked on 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Nice. Does he also write books? Yes, he does. Of course he does. Oh, okay. Oh, he created the Far Realm? Okay, now I need to look this guy up. Interesting. All right, yeah. I have no idea if we'd be able to get Bruce Cordell to join the show, but I'd love to talk to him about the Far Realm. Alrighty. I've been having issues in long push missions. I cannot hit the complete button to stop. Game keeps running and I have to shut the game down and restart. Master Burglar, are you able to complete after you've restarted the game? It's better. I mean, it's a better series of questioning and information for a tech support question if you can answer. In that I don't have access to anything to help you diagnose a problem while I'm on stream, and that's very much Sean's wheelhouse. But if you're able to put in an in-game support ticket, or if you can't put in an in-game support ticket because it's crashing or there's some other issue related to it, you can email idlechampions@codenameentertainment.com. And just kind of go through it and give us as much information as you can, and also be sure to include account information so we can look it up and just see what's happening, and then we can try and help diagnose that problem for you, because that sounds like a pain in the butt. Let's see. Bruce wrote several novels and lots of the abolithic and illithid backgrounds for the game. I'm on his Patreon, but he's very accessible on Facebook too. Okay, good to know. Huh. Yeah. The abolithic sovereignty is and everything related to the illithids are some of the most interesting, creepy, Lovecraftian lore and creatures and stuff related to Dungeons and Dragons at all. In fact, I had a session of one of the games I DM last night, where my players they finally made some progress in the Waterdeep Dragon Heist campaign after 2 years. They kept getting the stone of as an aside. They keep getting the stone of galore and then losing it. and then like getting it back and then losing it, and they never once tried to attune it to it and use it. So they finally attuned to it last night, and that was the end of the session. But I was explaining the flood of information that the one character accessed as they communicated with the Stone of Galore, because well, I don't want to spoil why, but the Stone of Galore as an artifact and a MacGuffin in that campaign has some knowledge in it. And I was trying to make sure that like I included imagery in my descriptions of the knowledge that the player initially accessed before they started to get more specific about what the Stone of Galore is for. But I first started talking about, in the beginning, at least from the Stone of Galore's point of view, which if you've read about the Abolithic Sovereignty or the Illithids or any of the other ancient history aberration stuff in D&D, the beginning was different for the Stone of Galore than for a lot of things. It was a lot of fun. And also confusing the player, because he's like, why am I seeing all this stuff? And I'm like, yeah, you see these things, and then eventually you see these things, and like just describing the imagery that it goes through. It was a lot of fun. Okay, so I hit complete, the game keeps running, and then the buttons lock. I restart the game, get the completion, it skips the recap. Yeah, that sounds really irritating, Master Burglar. Can you, even if you're able to get around this issue, I would very much like for you to, if you can, either put in a support ticket or send us an email with account info and just more context and information, because the more that we're able to easily try and isolate and replicate these individual issues, the easier it is for our developer team to try and address them. Okay, next question. Can Douglas Niles be a guest on one of the shows? Hey, that would be awesome. I don't know, but is that something... so I've been curious about that, because we were talking, myself and some of the other folks on our end, and I was talking to our data analyst, Chris Rudrum, and I was talking to some other people about, like what kind of content to put on our shows. I mean, obviously, yes, we talk about Idle Champions. We talk about things related to Idle Champions, and Idle Champions being the newest live service game for CNEGames and for Codename Entertainment. It gets a lot of attention, which as it should. But I find that this show, Idle Insights, is the only show where we regularly interview people, where we regularly talk to people from the D&D community, whether they have characters coming into our game or what have you, and. If it would be really interesting to the community for us to talk to other creators that are, other prominent D&D creators and contributors, because there have been many over the decades that Dungeons & Dragons has been around. If that's something that you guys would like to see, let us know. And we'll see what we can do. I don't know that we'll be able to get Bob Salvatore on the show, but you don't know until you ask. So, we can try. Yeah. Okay, next question. Trekkie49. Was Champions of Psychology a one-time special event, or is it a new permanent weekly show? So right now, Champions of Psychology is planned as a 10-episode series. I don't know if Mitra and Dr. B will be available past that, because as one might guess, their schedules are quite busy, and a lot of research and preparation goes into each episode. We've planned out all of the topics for each of the 10 episodes already, and they've been doing research on each one of them so that they make sure that they can bring to each episode, a discussion that is both deep and insightful on the topic at hand, but also parsable for people who are not clinicians or psychologists or working in the mental health industry. So. I can promise that there will be at least 9 more episodes. I don't know if there will be more beyond that, but if it's something that you really like seeing, Trekkie49 and anybody else, please let us know. Yeah. Mental health and wellness, I think, is only becoming a more and more relevant topic, especially given the change to how we interact with the world that was 2020, and just everything that has come with it, what that shift has been like for everybody. I think they are good topics to discuss. I think it's an important discussion to keep on going, just because it's managing your mental health is a lot more challenging when you don't have access to friends and family necessarily, never mind anything else that's going on. I mean, hell, mental health and wellness can be challenging even when there aren't pandemics and other stressors in your life. So, yeah, very, very excited about that show. It means a lot to us. Really excited to listen to it. I find that it's one of those things I can listen to. I've always found it very easy to listen to Mitra, and I've always found it very easy to listen to Dr. B, and I love Trevor. And yes, I find you easy to listen to, Trevor, but I think the group of them having a discussion, it's also, in addition to finding it insightful and interesting, I find it relaxing. So, yeah, I hope we can continue doing it, especially if that's something that people want to see more of. Let's see. The more people talk about mental health, the less of the stigma. Absolutely. And I think also there are a lot of topics that have been traditionally considered taboo because they're not dinner table conversations. You know, you wouldn't bring it up with your family or whatever. And I've always personally kind of believed that that's just a load. You know, topics only become taboo because people don't discuss them. And part of being able to have civil discourse with people and have meaningful interactions and discussions and have ideas challenged, you know, I think that's important. And I think being able to talk about things is important. So if we can help reduce the stigma around discussing mental health by having a weekly show on our Twitch, and it helps people, that's great. It's not, you know, the show itself is not therapy. You know, and it shouldn't be treated as such, but it is a safe space to discuss things and to ask questions, and you know, we're, I think, really putting ourselves out there to do it. And huge thanks to Eve at Take This and Dr. B for being so willing to help us build this project together, and also huge thanks to Mitra for being like, yes, I'll do it. It was great. And Trevor is addicted to podcasts. I knew that he would do it as soon as I asked him. So, yeah, very excited about it. The disclaimer is super important. Yes, it is. Yeah, it's relevant. I don't know that next episode we'll read it out quite so many times over it. We just wanted to make sure that we were covering our bases, but certainly at the beginning and the end of the episode, you'll catch it, just because it's yeah. Anyways, how is everybody doing? And especially when it comes to using Talon, because I find I'm still getting used to him, but I am so happy to see that people are embracing and using this character. I think the design turned out great. I think the art team did such a killer job. And I am always happy when players are able to immediately find a use for a champion, as opposed to we release some specific patron later on that forces you to use them and then they become useful, or some kind of specific type of variant with restrictions that prevent you from using a bunch of characters you'd rather use. And like, I like it when people are able to find use for a character right away, and it seems like that's what happened with this one, which to me feels like a win. Talon, great. Talon's formation layout, not great. Yeah, the wheel or whatever, this formation, it's brutal. I'm not a fan of it. As you can tell from my formation on screen, I haven't put a lot of work into trying to figure out the best formation for this. I've just been kind of toying around because I have been defaulting to Artemis and Trary formations for so long that I find that transitioning to an Ashara formation and trying to integrate Talon and Elcoria and other characters has been like a weird shift for me. Because I've just been used to thinking about the game in the same way for a long time. So this is a new way to think about it. Certainly if I want to push my event favor as far as I can for Dead Winter Day, I would probably pick one of the other available formations to do it. Yeah. Let's see. Talon's good. I've not been playing around with it much. Yeah, I'm using Talon right now in Strahd Flea plays. Using his Talon, it reverses his antagonist. Works great with Mako's DPS. Mako's DPS, nice. That formation is mean. Glad it isn't in a patron. Oh, just you wait. Just you wait. Let's see. Let's see. The formation sucks, but I enjoy the boost that Talon is giving my Jarlaxle. Awesome. Mars did okay with a push on Talon's formation. I was kind of surprised with his results. Nice. I'm going to have to check that out. One of the challenges I've found lately is that I'm having a harder and harder time keeping up with our streams because I tend to work on the behind the scenes with it, coordinating with everybody to make sure that things happen and making sure that Garwar's code is ready for Sunday and like talking to the people about content and like connecting people with guests and so on and so forth. And I don't get to listen in as often anymore. So I used to listen to Mars on the afternoon on Wednesday while I was getting some work done, but lately I've been in meetings. So I'm glad that he was able to put together a successful formation. That's awesome. Let's see. Games have come a long way since I played Space Invader in 1978. Yes, they have. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Garwar. Did I misspeak and say Sunday? Apologies. Saturday. Garwar shows on Saturday mornings. Oh, excuse me. Weird hiccup. Burp. Timing. Awkwardness. Okay. Space Invader 1978. That was a while ago now. Yeah. That was before Dylan. Yeah, games have come far. Could you imagine? So, like, I remember watching like mini documentaries and reading up on just like the history of gaming and video games and how stuff came developed, and it's pretty wild. And looking at the first video games and how people thought they would be used and like what, how much imagination they needed to use in order to see Pong as anything other than two lines and one dot, right? Like, how that has gone to, you can get an HTC Vive and have two controllers and, you can be Darth Vader or whatever, like games have come so far. It's just incredible. I have been waiting much of my life, personally, for a game like the original TIE Fighter, but like a photoreal one in VR where I could be sitting here and I am in an X-Wing and I am one of the pilots at the end of Return of the Jedi or any one of the Star Wars films. I've been waiting forever for that. And like, I know Star Wars Squadrons just came out and it's like, it's close. It's so close. That stuff just, it still excites me. And then my infant daughter gets upset and I'm like, oh right, got to spend time with you. So, this is the way. So Garwar, do you want to have a Sunday show? I know I misspoke, but like if you wanna broadcast on Sunday again, you let me know. It would be fun to pod race in VR, wouldn't it? Yeah, I think because I always found racing games, especially even on a curved screen, not having the periphery and not being able to look around was always kind of weird. But VR racing is something else. Yeah, that's pretty wild. I think pod racing in VR would be awesome. And then like eventually we're gonna have better haptic feedback and other stuff, and it's gonna be like you're gonna be able to like really feel like it. But oh man, yeah. Dylan, who's gonna mod the Sunday show? I don't know. We'll figure it out. If Jay and Sasha aren't available, we can hire somebody else. Anyways, Garwar's gonna ban Dylan. No, that's not how this works. This is our channel. Squadron was the first game that the VR gave me nausea issues. Gonna have to try that game without the VR. Oh, fair enough. Yeah, I do remember. For any of you, I say old school gamers, but there was somebody talking about Space Invader, which would be a real old school gamer. But any of you early mid '90s gamers remember Descent? Because those were the first games where that were 3D games where you could feel really queasy trying to play it. Yeah, it's a few times like you just kind of like you lose your bearings on where you are because there is no up because you're in a vacuum all the time with it. Anyways, That takes me back. So yeah, I'm not even remotely surprised that squadrons could do that. I think that like some types of space combat, you would have no issue with it as long as you have a reference point. You're not just spinning all the time. Like if there's a great big capital ship, or you're in the atmosphere of a planet and you have it down because it helps ground you. But if you don't have any of those things, yeah, I certainly wouldn't want to puke on $1,000 VR headset. So, but like taking it beyond that, like how long until we can play our you can play D&D virtually with your friends, and when you look at each other, you are yourselves, but you're your avatar selves as whatever character you've created. You know, you look at your friend, and you're like, wow, you do look like a dragonborn, and you're just rolling around together in stuff, and you know, like someday, gaming could be so much crazier. Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah, what else? I'm trying to think. So I'm just double checking some of our upcoming plans to see if there's anything that I should be previewing right now. So please bear with me. No, I can't talk about any of those things. I can't talk about those things either. I can't talk about those things. Nope. Nope. Yeah. I think, yeah. Oh, God. So, this is going to be obnoxiously vague, but we have a lot of really cool stuff coming up. We are planning more seasonal, quarterly style festival events this year, which will be a lot of fun. And we also we have another show launching next month that has required the most preparation of any of our Twitch shows by leaps and bounds. More preparation than every other Twitch show put together, easily. But we're very, very, very excited for it, and we hope that we hope that everybody likes it. I mean, we'll see. But we're very excited for that one. That'll come up in February. We'll talk more about that in the beginning of February, because I think people will like it a lot. We have some really cool characters coming. We have more comics with the awesome Luke McKay coming, including one later this week. We have we have an additional at least one patron planned to come out this year. We have at least one more Evergreen champion planned to come out this year. We are aiming to have more balance updates. I know that we did a soft cap increase at the end of last year, and then obviously we just fixed a bug related to Krull that saw some significant changes in how he's been performing. Although he still performs really well, I just don't think he's an 11 out of 10 anymore, or a 12 out of 10 like he was. But we're going to be paying close attention to that, because we would like to be able to more frequently tackle balance related things in the game. And then of course there was the blog that came out at the end of the last year, talking about 2021 Idle Champions. We talked about a type of multiplayer mode that was not necessarily it's not multiplayer in the way that I think the average person thinks of what a multiplayer game is. But what it was, I don't want to misquote it, so I'm just going to pull it up. It was cheekily called an ambiguous asynchronous cooperative multiplayer feature by Justin. Players have been expressing to us for a very long time that they want more ways to interact with each other as a community, in that this is basically solely a single player game. It is a single player experience with a healthy community of people who talk about the game and participate in stuff, but we would like to be able to show off, help players to show off their formations and strategies and work together towards things. I mean, you know, that's something that we'd like to do this year, but who knows? I mean, at this point, it could be something that, much like Modron automation and multi-party mode, it might evolve into a feature that takes the entire year to develop or something. So, you know, but it's, you know, this is the kind of stuff we're looking at. We are not done building out the feature set for Idle Champions yet. So there's some pretty exciting stuff related to that we're talking about. I see somebody asking if will there be a gelatinous cube in that show? You know, the show coming up, it's always possible there will be a gelatinous cube. I don't know that there will, but it's always possible. You know, every time I think of a gelatinous cube, I think of our ill-fated giant gelatinous cube that we took to PAX West and that died before it could go to another show. Oh man, so much work went into that thing. I actually know the design studio here in Victoria that made it, because the acrylic panels that they used, there was nothing in Victoria that they had access to, at least, that would allow them to heat mold panels that big. And so they had to custom build their own sort of mini furnace for it to heat mold it. And then they had to heat mold it by hand, each panel. You know, and there were 20 panels. 20? Yeah, there were 20 panels. And they had to like 3D design it in advance. In a modeling program so that they knew what they were making and make the ripples and make sure that everything lines up. And then they had to like basically by hand glue it together because it's not like they could manufacture this thing. So they prototyped and built it and they did it all themselves. And it was so much work. They really did a killer job. And it looked great at PAX West in 2019. And it was just such a shame that shipping it down to San Antonio for PAX South, that it looks like whatever they shipped it on got so cold that it became brittle, and then there was an impact on the rigid shipping container, and it shattered on the inside of it. Yeah, what a shame. But there's some great photos of it. And there's a really cool little video of it where you can see our CEO Eric with his head through the stuck out of the side of it, talking about it. That the always wonderful Todd Kenrick shot for us at PAX West a couple of years ago now. God, but yeah, gelatinous cubes are vulnerable to cold damage. I don't know if you knew. Yeah, ours got shattered. I'd pour one out for it, but there's still something to drink in here. Alrighty. Baby Lone Ranger 2261. Hello! Started playing in November and I'm starting to get around to watching watching streams more. I just joined Twitch proper yesterday and the game's Discord today. Not in a place where I can turn the sound on, but I wanted to ask if it was normal for the Devourer to show up at level 25 during Morgaine's careful positioning. I was expecting him for Cathris's final run, but not hers. I believe so, yes. The Devourer is a nightmare. Yeah, he is a challenging boss. You need to get rid of him right away. And also, every time I think of a Devourer, I think of back when all of us were in an office together and we played D&D at lunch in a confined space together, probably giving each other colds. But I lost one of my characters died killing a Devourer. Yeah, we were getting rocked that fight because there were corpses everywhere, and so the Devourer kept getting its AOE. I forget what it's called right now. Back and just kept just ravaging us. I did not get devoured by the Devourer. I popped a pocket dimension inside a bag of holding beside one and used the subsequent effect to both kill my character and the Devourer, and scatter all of our stuff across the plains. Yeah, that was fun. Is there any news on cross-platform saving? Well, there isn't, Toxic Diver, in the sense that we have no plans to do cross-platform saves. That's not something that that's not something that we're planning on doing. I bet your party loved you, Dylan. Well, that was a really dour character who was just a typical edgelordy character who was, ultimately good-hearted, but didn't see an opportunity to win the fight because we were already so weak by that point that it looked like we could TPK, and so they took the noble way out to try and save everybody. And then the follow-up character was this somewhat damaged but really outgoing and cheeky rogue sorcerer that I had a ton of fun with, who has a hilariously high initiative because it gets bonuses to initiative both on dexterity and charisma, both of which are maxed out. So yeah, always going first with that one. All right. Human Rejection at CNEGames. Relating to the multiplayer feature, I would love a campaign based on co-op play where there was a story for 50 levels like normal, but one player can only complete the mission once. This would have a tally on it, say 1,000, where the players in the community complete each step up to the desired tally. Then this gives something to all of the community, like, say, a hidden code. That's an interesting idea, Human Rejection. I'll make a note of that, and I can pass it along to the team. Whoop. God, I can't type right now. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Yeah. Anywho, it's getting close to 2:55, which is when I usually wrap things up. What else is there to say? We have lots of cool stuff coming up. Talon's event runs out this weekend. We will start talking about the next champion by the end of next week, but I'm more than happy to start talking to them about them during next week's episode of Idle Insights. Thank you for the guest suggestions. I think that could be a lot of fun. Bruce Cordell and what was the other one? Douglas Niles. I mean, you never know. The one thing that the pandemic has done is it has made a lot of people surprisingly available to be talked to, which wasn't always the case before. But now that there's no conventions to attend or anything like that, it might be that we can approach some of these people and maybe talk to them about, their contributions to the Forgotten Realms and Dungeons and Dragons as a whole. I think that'd be a lot of fun. This show would not exist were it not for some really awesome people. So we have the team over at D&D that we've been working with since 2016, 2017 now. Today I am blessed to have Sasha as my producer moderator, as well as our executive producer Erica, Jay hanging out in the chat, also sort of co-producing at this point. A huge thanks to the Trevor Bettis for joining me today to talk about all things podcasts and maybe a little bit about Destiny and Alien. It's a lot of fun to work with Treasure. Treasure. God, I said it. No. It's a lot of fun to work with Trevor. Oh dear. Oh. So I was trying to peel some skin off my lower lip at the same time, and I just totally screwed that up. So anyways, Treasure Bettis, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. You're a lot of fun, and maybe someday we'll play some Destiny together in my downtime. This has been our show for Thursday, January 21st, 2021. I wrote down 2020 on this thing here, but it's 2021. Take care, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow morning for Griddle Champions. Cheers.